Hi guys, this is Barrett Hoffman with West Coast Electric Cycles, and I'm going to talk a little bit about lithium polymer batteries. I get a lot of questions about batteries in general, 18650 cell based packs, and a lot of times people think those are really expensive, so they're looking for alternatives, and one alternative that I like to use personally is lithium polymer. It does not come without some caveats though, so I'm going to talk about those and why it may or may not be a good choice for your build. So come join me and we'll take a look at what options exist and what precautions you need to take if you want to use lithium polymer packs on your electric bicycles and other EV builds. Alright, so we're going to start by talking about one of the very first packs that I personally used when I started getting into lithium polymer packs. That is the Turnigy 5000 milliamp hour 4S hard case packs. This is the 20 to 30C. These were really popular before the multi-star packs came out. One of the main reasons they were quite popular is the hard case that they came in. The hard case is just a plastic case, but it provides a pretty good physical protection to the prismatic cells, or the lithium polymer cells that are inside of the pack here. And physical protection is a really nice feature to have with your lithium polymer packs. We'll talk about some of the dangers of that in just a minute here. But they weren't particularly, the 4S 5 amp hour hard case packs weren't particularly large packs. This pack, as you can see, fits nicely in the palm of my hand. It's roughly 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches by about 5.5 inches long or so. So typically you would build up a full larger size pack by putting multiple in series and then also multiple in parallel. So one of the very first packs that I built was for a BBS02 mid-drive system, and I used the 4S packs and I put them 3 in series for a total of 12 cells and 2 in parallel for a total of 10 amp hours. So 5 times 2 is 10 in parallel for 10 amp hours. And it was a decent pack, and it looked like this. This is the pack that I actually ran on my BBS02 system when I first got started. As you can see here, it's 3 cells in series by 2 cells in parallel, so there's a total of 6 of the 4S hard case packs. And Christopher Parham was one of my many mentors as I was learning all about lithium polymer, and he put me onto this system of using Anderson connectors to do a series of parallel charging options and serial connections on the e-bike itself. So right now this is the 6 packs go to a block of Anderson connectors, and then from that block I can parallel to my balance charger, or I can connect it in series to the bicycle to get my full 12S 44.4 volt nominal pack on the bike. So that was kind of where we started out. That was a few years ago. Since that time, lithium polymer has advanced a little bit. The energy density has gotten a little bit stronger, and now the common popular packs are the multi-star packs, and the multi-stars that folks like to use on e-bikes generally are the 10 to 16 amp hour packs in either the 4S or the 6S configuration. This is the 4S configuration. It's a little bit bigger, as you can see, compared to the 4S hard case packs. So a little bit physically bigger. You'll also notice that the pack is shrink wrapped. Okay, it's not in a hard case as the earlier packs were. That is something to be very aware of as you're installing the packs on your bike. That's the 4S, and then the 6S is essentially, they're basically the same cells inside, just 6 in series instead of 4 in series. So these are just 50% larger than the 4S packs physically and then also voltage-wise. So the 6S and the 4S, you can actually use those packs in common. So let's say you wanted to get a total of 14 cells in series. You could actually take 2 of the 4S packs and 1 of the 6S packs, wire them all in series. Because they're all 16 amp hour cells, it should stay balanced, assuming the packs are fairly well made. So by connecting these in series, you have 4, 8 plus 6, that's 14 cells in series. So this might be a popular option if you're maximizing the voltage for a 48 volt system like the BBSO2 or a lot of the IRFB 37.7 based controllers, which typically have a maximum voltage of 60 volts. The charge voltage on a 14 cell lithium polymer pack like this would be about 58.8 volts. I particularly like the 4S packs, mainly because you can do a variety of different configurations, from 12S, 3 in series, up to 20S for common 4110 MOSFET controllers that max out at about 95 volts. 20S is a great voltage for running higher powered systems, especially systems like Adapto or like the 4110 Z-Chain sine wave controllers that I sell on the westcoastelectrics.com website. So 20S, great voltage. To do 20S with the 4S hardcase packs, you would run 5 packs in series, and then if you wanted more capacity, you could do packs in parallel as well. And then likewise with the 6S packs, you can do multiples of 6, so you can do 12S, 18S, 24S. Of course, is also possible with the 4S packs. You just have 6 in series instead of 4 like you would have in the 6S packs. So 24 packs or 24 cells in series would have a total charge voltage of 100.8 volts, which is actually beyond the voltage limits of most 4110 MOSFET controllers. I don't advise going to 24S with those controllers. Some guys do, but there's a very high risk of popping the capacitors and even the MOSFETs on the controller when you run at 24 cells in series. So I generally don't recommend that. You could configure it to 22S, 6, 12, 18 plus 4, 22. That would be the absolute maximum voltage I would run on a 4110 MOSFET controller, 22S. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the downside to lithium polymer. So lithium polymer is a more volatile chemistry than an 18650 cell pack. So this here is an example of an 18650 cell. It is essentially a cylindrical cell that a lot of battery tool manufacturers use. This happens to be a Makita pack that I've opened up to harvest the 18650 cells. So metal case with a plastic wrap on it. The 18650 cell is a fairly stable system. Generally, don't have a lot of fire hazard with these type of systems unless you have a faulty BMS or the pack is physically damaged. So these cells are actually very safe, and most battery manufacturers will use these cells inside of various cases, the dolphin cases, the shark cases, or the Hylon cases. You're probably familiar with. That's what is inside of those cases, is the 18650 cells. They're generally spot welded together and then installed inside the case with the battery management system or BMS, and pretty much everything is plug and play to your controller or your kit, whatever the case may be. So fairly safe system when you're using 18650 cells. With lithium polymer cells, you have essentially a I like to describe it as a bomb that that you have to take care of, that you have to be really careful with so that you don't detonate the bomb. Okay, and I'm not joking really. If you do not physically protect the cells, something like this can happen. Alright, this is a 6S pack that I had installed on a bike, and the corner of the pack was actually rubbing up inside the battery bag. This is inside a nice triangle battery bag, but it didn't have any kind of physical protection. It didn't have like a board or foam or anything like that, and so the pack was basically crunched up into the inside triangle of the frame, and over time that just the movement of the pack inside the frame of the battery caused a short in the system, and so the battery basically started venting while I was on the bike, and that's not a good thing. You basically just had to step away, let it vent, and luckily it didn't, burn the whole bike up. But that's one of the caveats of using lithium polymer, is that if you do not protect the cells, if you don't have some kind of hard case that's built onto the pack, or you don't provide some foam or some cushioning or something rigid to really protect all the corners of the cells, something like this can happen and can be catastrophic on your bike. So that's caveat number one. You got to physically protect the cells. Caveat number two is lithium polymer packs do not have a BMS. Okay, they do have a balance plug, which is the small little plug wire here, and that balance plug allows you to tap into each cell of the pack to know what that cell's voltage is. On the main terminals, you'll have the pack voltage, which will be some multiple of however many cells you have. But the cell voltage, so each lithium cell is going to range from a low voltage of roughly 3.0 volts, and then the fully charged voltage is about 4.2 volts. You never want to take the battery pack below cell voltage of about 3.5 or so. Below 3.5, that's kind of where the discharge curve cliffs down. It just drops off drastically below 3.5 volts per cell. So for a 4S pack, 4 times 3.5 is about 14 volts. So one 4S pack, once you reach the 14 volt pack voltage, the discharge curve just drops way off. And you can feel it, as you're riding, you'll feel that cliff as you kind of reach it, and the bike will really start to slow down. And when that does, you just have to stop riding. Hopefully you're done with the ride. If not, you have to power your system off and pedal to somewhere where you can recharge the battery. That being said, unless you're actively monitoring each cell, there is the potential, if the cells are not perfectly balanced, or perhaps you get a dud pack, there may be one cell that's lower than the rest, and so that cell may actually dip below that, that 3.0 volt threshold where it's really safe to run a lithium polymer pack. And so that's the danger that you face when you're using lithium polymer packs. It is possible to hook up a BMS to a pack system like this. It's a bit involved to do it, but it's not a bad idea to do it. Although I will say that generally speaking, I don't use a BMS. My technique is to just have way more battery than I need, and to never get real close to that cliff. I generally try and ride within the full voltage down to about 3.6, 3.7 volts. And if I see I'm getting closer, lower than that on my pack voltage, then I'll either stop riding, or I'll find a place to charge, or I'll do whatever I can to avoid getting close to that cliff. so that I don't run that risk. The other thing I do is I carry a battery cell checker, balance checker, with me anytime I'm writing, so that I can check every pack in my battery. And these are pretty easy to use. You just plug the balance port into the appropriate port on the charger. This is not a very well balanced pack. So this particular pack is not balanced, and it may have a bad cell too. So we would want to run some diagnostics on this to really know if this is a bad pack that we would not want to use on our bike. And I will use this, and I will check before I ride. I will check every single pack, every single individual pack of lithium polymer in my battery before I ride, to know A, that they're all balanced, and B, that they're well charged. When I connect it in series on my bike, I can of course see the full pack voltage on my display. I often use the cycle analyst displays, or if you have any kind of voltage display, you'll see the pack voltage, and that's a general indicator, but it doesn't tell you the cell voltages, which is the most critical part. So that's why I always check before I ride with a balance, a battery medic or a battery checker. And then I also test, or I check it at when I think I'm getting close to the end. I'll check the cells and make sure that they're all decreasing in voltage equally. They're all within a few hundredths of a volt of each other, and I don't have one low or weak cell in the pack. So now let's talk about how we connect the packs in series and in parallel when we install them on the bike. I have here one of my kilowatt bags. This is a bag that I developed for mounting lithium polymer packs over the top tube of the bike. And you can find more information about this on my website if you want to purchase one. But for now, I mainly just want to show you the actual wiring harness that I make for connecting lithium polymer packs in series and in parallel. So what I have here, the main output lead, this goes to my controller. And most of these multi-star packs use the XT90 connectors, and so I build everything with XT90s. This plug here, this is the XT90 anti-spark connector, and I use this in lieu of a pre-charge connector. This just eliminates the spark that you would typically get when you plug a battery into the controller, especially at higher voltages. So anti-spark, when you plug this in to the controller, you want to plug it in very slowly. You'll see the first little green knob there, or the green kind of circle on the end of the connector. That indicates where the resistor is, and so you can plug the connector in up to that point where that resistor is for just like 1 or 2 seconds, and then that resistor slowly lets the battery current into the controller, and then after a couple of seconds, then you can plug the anti-spark connector in the rest of the way, and then that makes the full connection to the battery. The XT90 connectors are good for about 90 amps total of power, and usually I will wire these with 10 gauge silicone wire or bigger. 10 gauge is a good fit for these connectors, and so that's typically what I use. So that is the anti-spark connector. That's my plug from my full pack voltage to the controller. So from there, you can see I actually have 2 parallel strings, positive and negative, from the main discharge port. Okay, so this particular setup is 2P, or 2 parallel. Okay, so I have 1/2 of my pack is one parallel side, or one of the sides, and then this is at the full pack voltage on this side, and then the parallel pack on the other side, okay, is the same, and they have to be exactly the same when you connect them in parallel, same voltage. So before you make any of these connections, every single pack that you connect to the whole system has to be exactly the same charge state. Usually I'll either fully charge them and then connect them in series in parallel, or I'll just make sure that they're all the same. They all have the exact same voltage per cell. Okay, that's a critical thing when you're initially plugging everything in. Once they're all plugged in, the two sides will stay balanced. Okay, that's just electricity will balance itself, and so the two sides will stay balanced on the pack voltage level. They won't stay balanced on the cell level. Okay, that's not how this is configured to balance on the cell level, only the pack level. So this happens to be a 20S, actually a 16S. This is a 16S assembly, and so the pack voltage is roughly 60 volts nominal, 67 point something, 67.8 I think, fully charged. So that's the parallel connection. Now the serial connection, these happen to be 10 amp hour 4S packs, and there's 4 per side, so 4 times 4 cells is 16, so 16 cells. So this particular pack is 16 cells in series total by 10 amp hours on the left and 10 amp hours on the right for a total of 20 amp hours. So 16S, 20 amp hours in this assembly or this pack right now. So let me show you the harness that I built. So here's the wiring harness from my kilowatt bag. If you look at the connectors on my wiring harness, you'll notice that there's 5 on each parallel string. Okay, this is actually set up for 5 packs. And I had a little trick that I did when I was running 4 packs in the kilowatt bag, and that trick was to make a jumper that goes on the first, and actually it doesn't even matter which one it goes into, it just bypasses one of the connectors. So for the 4S, okay, 4 packs in series configuration, we just need to bypass one of the connectors on either, in both, parallel sets. Okay, so plugging this in on either side bypasses this connector and this connector. So now we have 4 in series for each parallel side. Okay, this just gives me some adjustability or flexibility with my kilowatt bag and the packs that I put in it for my different bikes that I use it on. One bike has a controller that can only take up to 16S total cell voltage, whereas my other bikes have up to 22S or 20S. So in those cases I would use all 5 plugs to make 5 4S packs in series. So this just gives me a little bit of configuration option for my pack. If you're building your own and you're just going to build it as a 16S or a 20S, let's say it's a 20S, then you would just have 5 in series, 5 connectors in series for each of the 4S packs. The way the pack structure works is from the main negative. Okay, here's the large pack connector, and so this is the positive and negative. So from the negative, you follow that, and of course my wires are color coded here, to the negative of the first pack in series on both strings. So this connector and this connector are considered the first 4S pack in series, or whatever packs you're using. That's the first pack in the series. Then from the positive side of this connector, okay, so this is the negative side of the connector, this is the positive side. From the positive side of the connector to the negative side of the second pack connector, that's the serial connection, positive to negative. And then then the series loops through the pack, and then from positive to negative again on the third pack, from positive to negative on the fourth pack, on the 5th pack, and then finally positive back to the main output connector. Okay, so that's how the serial connection works with the XT90 connectors, with 5 packs in series and 2 packs or 2 sets in parallel. So how do we charge a pack like this? You might ask yourself. And so the answer is, what I typically do is I have 2 different charge methods. I have a bulk charge method where I just want to fill the battery pack with energy. So I connect a power supply or a charger, a battery charger, that outputs voltage that matches the charge voltage of my whole pack. So for 16 cells, it's going to be about 67.8 volts is going to be my charge voltage for a 16 cell pack. For a 20 cell pack, your charge voltage would be about 84 volts. For a 12S pack, your charge voltage is going to be about 50.4 volts. It's the charge voltage typically is 4.2 volts per cell is the charge voltage. You can charge less than that. You can charge 4.1 volts per cell, 4.15, 4 volts per cell. It really doesn't matter to the cells. It actually is better for the cells if you don't charge all the way to its maximum 4.2 volts per cell. If you charge less, then the battery is a little bit happier. You can get more charge cycles out of a pack if you only take it to, say, 4.1 volts per cell. So for the general lifetime health of the battery, it's actually better not to charge all the way to full pack voltage. It just depends on what your needs are. If you need the absolute maximum range of the battery, then you probably want to charge to full voltage. Or if you're racing and you want to have the most power possible, then you'll most likely charge the maximum voltage or whatever your controller's maximum allowable voltage is. So that's charging. And to connect it to a power supply or a battery charger, I use this same connection. I just unplug it from my controller and I plug it into my charger. I could have also added a parallel tap from my wiring harness to connect directly to the charger and not have to unplug this plug from my controller. It's more of just a convenience thing if you want to do that or not. But if you did that, you would want to tap from the main here, not from beyond where where it splits off into 2 parallel. Now I'll show you what I do when I want to balance charge, when I want to make sure that every single individual pack is balanced within itself and with all the other packs and individual cells in every other pack. And so I'm going to do what's called parallel balance charging a full pack. And it's a little bit involved, but I don't have to do it every time I charge. I only have to do it once, maybe every 10 to 20 charge cycles, unless you have a bad pack. So let's look at how we balance charge a parallel group of packs. Alright, so this is a relatively simple setup for balance charging a pack or a set of lithium polymer packs, and that's assuming that the packs are all the exact same model. In this case, I'm going to show you how to balance the 4S 16 amp hour packs. You never want to mix packs when you're balancing like this. So this particular setup I have is good for balancing up to 4 packs in parallel because I have 4 ports on my parallel balance cable. This is an iCharger 106B Plus. This iCharger is capable of balancing packs up to 6 cells in series in up to 10 amps. So I can put as much as 10 amps of power into my battery array with this particular charger. Now this charger does not come with a power supply. You have to power this charger independent of the unit itself. And so for that I have essentially what this is a modified server power supply. So this is a 12-volt power supply, and this actually is 3 power supplies in series that can output up to 36 volts. I'm just going to use one of those power supplies that outputs at the terminals 12 volts. This is something that you can buy from Christopher Parham from RL Power Supplies or LiPo Connection Solutions. He produces these. I purchased this from him. It's a great system. He sells a lot of these for RC hobby guys. And again, this works well for the lithium polymer packs that we use on our bikes. So I'm just going to plug in the power input from the iCharger. I'm going to plug that into the power supply here. So this is outputting 12 volts to the iCharger. And okay, we're going to go program select lithium battery, and now I can hook up my battery packs. The first thing I do want to do is with my cell checker, I'm just going to make sure that I'm not paralleling packs that have different cell voltages. So I'm just going to double check. If you've just pulled these off of your bike, it should be fine. These particular packs I actually just had on the shelf, and so they may or may not be the same pack voltage. So this one, the pack average is about 4.3 volts. This one is, so this one is 3.82 volts pack average. So I don't want to parallel these two packs together, because if I do, there'll be a large rush of current from the high pack to the low pack, and that'll make the wires get really hot. That'd be a really dangerous situation. So I do not want to parallel that pack with this pack. Let's check the other packs and see if we have a few more that are all the same voltages here. Okay, this one's close enough. This is within a few hundredths of a volt to that one, which is pretty safe to parallel. This one's way off. I'm not going to balance. I'm not going to do that one. And this one's 3.8. So these three, we're gonna parallel charge these 3 packs because they're all within a few hundredths of a volt per cell between the others. Okay, so here's how we're gonna make those connections to balance. If these packs are still on your bike, the very first thing you want to do is unplug every serial connection of the pack. Okay, you do not want to parallel connection while you still have anything connected to the bike. So unplug everything from all your packs so that all you have are bare connectors from every pack. Okay, that's the very first thing. You never want to kind of rush your way through this. Okay, this is a very sensitive and you need to be thoughtful as you're making these, because having a serial and a parallel connection on a pack would be a bad thing. Essentially, you're going to burn up some wires if you do that. So unplug everything first before you start plugging things back in parallel. All right, so we can start by paralleling the mains. Okay, so these 3. Okay, so we just paralleled at the pack voltage. Okay, now we're going to parallel the balance leads. Okay, and this is actually a parallel balance cable that you can buy. This one I bought from Buddy RC. It's just a 4S 6 by parallel JST-XH, I believe, connector type. And these will plug into, and this will take up to 6 packs. We're only going to use 3 of them. And then we're going to plug those in. Okay, from each pack. And they do have tabs, so they only go in one direction. You cannot plug them in backwards. Okay, so we have the 3 balance ports connected to the iCharger, and we have the 3 main ports connected to the input on the iCharger. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're making this connection, the cable that you have, you want that to be plugged into the iCharger before you plug it into the battery. The reason being is that if you plug it into the battery first and then the 2 ends of this cable accidentally touch together, that would cause a short for the battery, and it would spark and it would scare the crap out of you and burn something, maybe burn your fingers. So always plug into the charger before you plug into the battery. Same thing with the balance connectors, although this is a little bit more safe because it's a better protected pack. But just plug everything into the charger first, then plug into the packs. So we're parallel balance charging this pack. Okay, iCharger's turned on, we're plugged into the main power supply. So we're going to program select lithium battery and select that. We're going to do lithium ion balance charge. Okay, we can change the charge rate. Okay, over here is the charge current. We're going to use the maximum. We're going to use 10 amps. So I'm just going to press the start button and press the start button again, and it takes me and it starts blinking on the 1.0A. Okay, that's my charge rate, the amps. So I'm going to increase that till it says 10. I'm just going to hold down the button. Oops. Okay, 10.0 amps. Okay, and you'll see over here it says 14.4 volt for S. Okay, it generally will automatically detect what the pack voltage is and know, yeah, you have 4 cells in series. It also determines that by what it's getting from the balance port. So 14.4 volts, that's the nominal voltage. It'll actually charge it fully to 16.8 volts. And then we just press the charge button, or we press and hold the start enter button. Okay, and then it starts the charge cycle. And then it slowly ramps up to 10 amps charge rate. And then you can see over here it tells you what the charge voltage is at the current moment, which right now is at 15.45 volts per cell. Or I'm sorry, 15.44 volts for the pack. To see what the cell voltages are on the iCharger, if you hit the status increase or decrease, okay, that'll give you the cell voltages. So right now, cell 1 is at 3.85, cell 2 is at 3.82, cell 3 is at 3.85, and cell 4 is at 3.85. So cell 2 is a little bit low, but it'll catch up once we complete the balanced charge cycle. That's the purpose of this, is to make all of those, when they're done, when it's done charging, they'll all be the same. So that's why you'd want to do this on occasion, is because there may be one cell in your battery pack or set of parallel cells in your battery pack that's just a little bit weaker than the others, and so over time it tends to get a little bit out of balance. Going through this procedure brings everything back to an equilibrium state. So we would let this run until it's fully charged. Once it's fully charged, they would all be at about 4.20 volts. And on a pack level, if the cells in the pack are within, let's say, 0.02 of a volt. If it's drastic, if it's like a full volt lower, then you probably have a bad pack and you want to take that pack out of service immediately. Like I said, if a cell gets lower than, say, 3.0 volts per cell, okay, that's where you can have catastrophic failures where the pack overheats, it gets puffy, and then it vents and then causes a fire. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So that's why we go through this balance cycle where we actively monitor the individual cells as we're charging, and we make sure that they're healthy in that respect. The other thing, when you're doing something like this, and really anytime you charge your battery pack, whether it's bulk charging or balance charging, you want to be close by. You want to be in the same room. You want to be awake. You want to be alert, okay? Because at any moment, if there's something wrong with the battery, it could vent, it could spark, it could do something that starts a fire. Okay, this is the one main inherent disadvantage with lithium polymer is sometimes shit happens and you need to be prepared to deal with it. Okay, if you set this to charge and let's say it's late at night, you go to bed and something happens, you've just burned your house down. Okay, that's the downside to lithium polymer, and that's what you want to avoid. So to avoid that, you have to be present in the room and you have to be aware of what's going on with your battery. The other precaution that I strongly recommend you take is that you do this, you charge, whether bulk charging or balance charging, somewhere where you would build a fire. So such as a fireplace or a barbecue, but something that could contain a fire if a fire were to happen. That is generally the safest place to charge a lithium polymer pack, so that in the event that you do have some kind of catastrophic failure, you can at least contain the fire. The other good practice is to have a bucket of sand around. If you do have a fire, you do not want to put it out with water. Water and lithium don't like each other very much. The best way to put out a lithium fire is with a fire extinguisher and a bucket of sand. Dump sand on it, or if you can, put the pack in the sand and fill it up. But essentially you want to smother the fire. There are some people that really should just not use lithium polymer. Those people would include folks that live in apartments, okay, where you have lots of other people living in very close proximity, same building structure as you. It's really just too risky for you to use and charge a lithium polymer pack like this, where you're putting others at risk without their being aware of it. So if you have a townhome that's connected to adjacent, property owners, or if you're an apartment, I do not recommend that you do lithium polymer packs. It's just too risky. I charge in my garage, which is detached from my house. Okay, so if a fire were to happen, I might lose my garage. It'd suck, no doubt about it. But I'd still be pretty safe in my house because it's not attached to my garage. And again, I always am present and aware when my batteries are charging. I'm not going to let it run through the cycle here. We'll just check on the cells again real quick. The cells are increasing, but they haven't yet balanced. Typically, they don't balance until they get up to the very top of the charge. So it's called what's called top balance charging. So right now it's charging. It's doing its thing at 10 amps. This is 16 by 3 in parallel. So we're looking at 48 amp hours of battery pack that this is charging. And since it's charging at 10 amps, if this were completely empty at 10 amps to fill up a 48 amp hour pack would take about 4.8, and actually a little bit longer than that because of the charge curve. But close to 5 hours to fully charge this pack with a 10 amp charger. Okay, so this is not a fast way of charging this particular pack, because when you do it in parallel like this, you're multiplying the amp hours by 3 in this case, or however many packs you have in parallel. So 48 amp hours of pack divided by 10 still gives you about a 4.8 hour charge time. So it is going to take a while to do a balanced charge with this. These packs aren't quite all the way dead. They're probably at about a 50 to 60% charge state. So reality is these might only take a couple of hours to fully charge. If you want to charge faster, they do have more powerful iChargers. And let's take a look at a more powerful one here in just a second. Alright, so this setup here is also an iCharger, but this is a 406 and a duo. This will actually do two different charge setups simultaneously. You can also do discharging through this particular balance charger as well, which is a nice feature for testing packs and things like that. So this essentially is just the big brother to the 106B plus charger, iCharger. The 4 indicates 40 amps of charge rate. So now we're really pushing the power into those batteries. In this case, since we're charging at 40 amps, these packs actually can take a 40 amp charge rate just fine when they're 3 in parallel. Typically, when you're charging lithium polymer packs, you can charge these at 1 to 2C as a fairly safe charge rate. So 16 amps per pack. Since we have 3 in parallel, that means I can charge up to 48 amps fairly safely. If you charge them too fast, they tend to overheat, and it's hard on the cells if you charge them too fast. But this is a very, even at 40 amps, it's a fairly moderate charge rate. And they'll be fully charged in about an hour, hour and a half. So if you want speed in charging, get a bigger, faster, more powerful charger. This does take more power to run too. The iCharger 106 will only do about 250 watts. This one will do over 1,000. So this is a great charging setup. So now I'm going to show you my bulk charging setup. And I built myself a pretty robust charging array. And what I did, you can see here, these are 4 in series Meanwell power supplies. And the model on these particular power supplies is the HRP 300-24. What that is basically is it's a 300 watt power supply with a 24 volt approximate output. Okay, and as you can see here, I have my plug, my 110 voltage power source from the AC from my house wiring. Okay, so I have that plugged into the power, the neutral, and the ground. And those 3 wires parallel through all 4 units. And so all 4 units get power all the time with this setup. And then the outputs, the DC outputs, you can see here. And then here's the identification for the various ports on the back of the Meanwell unit. So you have the line, the neutral, the ground, and then you have voltage. Then this is DC voltage, so voltage negative, and then voltage positive, so black and red. And there's actually two terminals for each of those blocks. Okay. The other thing that's kind of cool about the Meanwells is down here they have a little potentiometer that you can adjust the exact voltage output for each unit. And that voltage has a pretty wide range actually. On these units, the range is about 20 volts to about 30 volts. So each unit can range from 20 to 30 volts. So if I adjusted the voltage down on all the units in series to 20, I would have a total of 20, 40, 60, 80 volts of output. Okay. Or if I adjusted it to the maximum, I could have 30, 60, 90, 120 volts of output. That's DC volts. So, and then I can also tap individual or various multiples in series, depending on where I plug in this set. This output here, you'll notice I have the negative from the bottom one and the positive from the top one. So that's taking all 4 in series. I can also take the negative from the top one, and that gives me a 20 to 30 volt range. If I plug into the top 2, then I can get 40 to 60 volts of range. If I plug into the top 3, I can get 60 to 90 volts of range. So it's a really robust charging setup depending on what terminal I connect to. It's really a great system. The other thing I've done is I use the Anderson power pole. These are the PP45 connectors. The PP15 and the PP30 and the PP45 all use the same housing, just different metal connector pins inside. These connectors are good for up to 45 amps of current. And this charging setup only has a maximum output of about 14 amps. Okay, 120 volts, but only about 14 amps of power. So the Anderson power pole connectors are a great option for a charger like this. They're easy to make, and I pretty much use these, and then I use essentially just little pigtail adapters or whips to convert to whatever connector I want to use. In this case, I'm going to use a XT90 connector for my battery pack. Okay, so right now, if I wanted to charge my pack, I can just plug those in, and obviously red to red, black to black. Okay, and so now I have some voltage, I don't know exactly what it is yet, going to my XT90 connector output. Now, if you've seen the Grin satiator, one of the really cool features about it is that it tells you the charge voltage, it tells you the charge current, it tells you how many watt hours, amp hours, everything that you're putting into your battery. What I have set up here is virtually identical in functionality, except that I'm using a cycle analyst that I'm going to wire in my setup to monitor the charge. So instead of plugging directly from the charger output to my connector, I'm actually going to run this remote shunt in between those two connectors, and then I can monitor the voltage and the current that's feeding through this shunt as it charges my battery. So let me get that set up here. Okay, so there's my connection. You'll notice on the shunt, the battery, okay, that actually goes to the charger for this setup, because the charger technically is the power source. Normally this might get installed on a bike, and so your power source is the battery, but in this case the power source is the charger, and the load, or the controller, the load is the battery pack itself. Okay, so Andersons, and again, I make everything up in Andersons so I can use this fairly easily, and then if I'm charging a different battery, I can change my connector type just by picking or making up a pigtail appropriate for that pack that I'm charging. Okay, so I'm not quite ready to charge yet, but let's take a look at the information now that we're getting from my charger. Okay, so right now it's outputting about 84.2 volts. And you'll see down at the bottom there 0 to 2, 3, 4 watts of power. Okay, so not really much going on. I can also go to the next page here, and so I can see voltage, watts, I can see amps, and I can see amp hours. Okay, and right now it's sitting at about 12.51 amp hours. If I want to reset that, I just hold down that button. Okay, so now I've reset the amp hours. So now I can monitor exactly how much energy is going back into my battery pack. I can see what I used on the previous ride if I want. Okay, so this is effectively a super high powered satiator setup. Okay, 14 amps output capable, and up to 120 volts. Okay, anywhere from 20 to 120 volts. So this is about as awesome as you can get for a bulk charger with monitoring. This is the satiator on steroids. If you're interested in having me build a setup like this for you, I'm happy to do so, and I can quote you some rates on that. But this is my own personal setup, and I love it. It's great, and this is what I use on a daily basis. The one downside to this, though, that I will mention is that I cannot adjust the charge rate. It will charge at 14 to 15 amps. If your pack if the pack can't handle that charge rate, then I don't want to use this, okay, because it could push too much power to the battery pack. Things like the Dolphin packs or the bottle style battery packs, okay, those can typically only take maybe 3 amps of charge rate, and so I wouldn't want to use a setup like this to charge a bottle style battery. This is mainly just for lithium polymer packs that are capable of taking up to 14 amps of charge rate. So there's my setup. So now let's look at how I would bulk charge a battery pack. Alright, so here's my kilowatt bag again, and this time I have 5 packs in series for a total of 20S. I'm using all 5 of my connector ports, and so I have and those are the same 4S by 10 amp hour individual packs, 2 in parallel, and then 5 in series for a total of 20 cells in series by 20 amp hours. Okay, and so there's my full pack harness going to my XT90 anti-spark connector. This is the pack voltage, so this is going to be the 20 cell voltage, and the charge rate on this for 20 cells would be 84 volts. So I'm now actually able to plug this directly into my little pigtail, and we can monitor the charge rate as we plug that in. The nice thing about XT90 connectors is the indent will not let you plug it in backwards. Okay, so for a second I let it, as I'm connecting it, I let it pre-charge, and then I can plug it in the rest of the way. And you can actually hear the fans kick on my chargers. And there is my charging status. So right now the pack voltage is 81.67 volts. The current you can see is 15.72. It's actually a little bit higher current than what these are rated for. So these are really pumping out the juice to this battery pack. We're charging at about 1285 watts right now. And just in the time I've been talking, we've put in almost just over 0.14 amp hours of energy back into the pack. So with this setup, since this is a 20 amp hour pack and we're charging at 15 amps, from fully discharged to fully charged, our charge time would be just about an hour and a half or less, hour and 20 minutes or so. So this is an exceptionally fast charging setup. This is my bulk charging setup, which I do whenever I ride, anytime I ride. I'll charge it for up to till it gets to the full pack voltage. What happens when it charges is it charges at a constant current. This is what they call a CC-CV charge cycle. So constant current to start with. So it'll stay at about 15.7 amps until the voltage reaches to whatever the output voltage was I set on the charger. In this case, it was like 84.1 or 2 or something like that. Okay, so once it gets up to 84.2 volts, then the current will gradually decrease until it gets down to close to 0. When it gets to close to 0, that means that the pack is fully charged. It can't take any more current at the charge voltage. If you were to up the voltage, then the current would increase and it would put more energy into the battery, but now you're overcharging the cells, which is not good for lithium. Likewise, you can undercharge the pack. You can set the charge output to be, say, 83 volts, okay, and then it would just cut off earlier. So you wouldn't completely fill the pack, and like I said earlier, that's actually a good thing to not fully charge the battery cells. So the thing to keep in mind when you're bulk charging is that this charging setup does not have an automated termination point, meaning if you don't do anything to it, it will continue to try and push energy into those cells. The current technically does go down eventually to 0, and once you get to that point, in theory, it shouldn't be possible to put any more energy into the battery. But if there is any kind of failure, any kind of bad connection, or the battery shorts or something like that, the charger continues to try and push energy into the battery. So it could potentially lead to a bad situation. So the one thing that you definitely want to be very cautious of if you do a charging setup like this is that you want to keep an eye on it. You want to see when it does get down to 0 amps or when it gets close. And by that it could be like a 1 amp or less. Once you reach the 1 amp charge rate, I would call that essentially finished. And you would physically unplug the XT90 connectors to electrically separate the battery from the charger. So this is a hands-on charging procedure. This is not something that you set and walk away from and go to bed or go do something else. This is something that you're monitoring actively in the same room with it. Here's an alternate bulk charging setup that I also use. This is an onboard charger that I use for a 12S, 44 volt nominal pack. This is the charger's something relatively small that I can carry with me on my bike. And this particular pack I used on a BBS02 system that I ran at 12 cell voltages. And again, I have a wiring harness here that just converts those 3/4S packs into serial connections for 12S output. Again, I use the anti-spark XT90 connector on the output lead for my wiring harness. This particular Meanwell is a HLG 240H-48A. That just means it's 240 watts and 48 volts output. Okay, don't get confused by the A there. That's not current. That's just the type. There's A, B, C, and D for this particular series of Meanwell charger. A just means that it has adjustable voltage and adjustable current output. This is one of the nice features about this particular series of Meanwell, is that you can adjust the current output. Unlike the previous power supply setup that I showed you, this one has variable current output. This particular unit is rated for 5 amps of output, and I can reduce that if I so desire. Say I had a bottle style battery that I wanted to do a 3 amp charge output, I could actually set the potentiometer in here to adjust the current down to under 5 amps. Okay, and then voltage, the nominal voltage is 48 volts, and again there is some adjustability in that. This one doesn't have quite the range as the other Meanwell units that I use, but it can vary from about 42, 43 volts up to about 50, 51 volts or so. So a little bit of voltage range. It's great for 12S, but for 13S actually it doesn't quite fully charge a 13S battery pack. This charger I actually have a XT90 output on. I did not use the Anderson connectors on this one, mainly because it's an onboard charger that I would only be using with something like this, and so I kind of skipped the Anderson power pole connector detail that I normally use. I can, however, with yet a different style remote shunt that in this particular one I actually did the XT90 male and female ends on this so that I can still use my cycle analyst to monitor the charge. You don't have to use the cycle analyst to monitor the charge on something like this. This would be something I would use, let's say I'm on a bike ride and I'm getting low on battery and I need to top off. Maybe I just need to go another few miles, and so I need to put another couple amp hours of energy back into the battery. I might find a restaurant or a Starbucks or something that has a public outlet, public 110 outlet that I can plug my Meanwell into. And so I can just charge up I can just plug it in for say 20-30 minutes to just give me a little bit more charge to finish my ride. So I wouldn't necessarily use bring my cycle analyst and monitor the charge for something like that. I would just leave it on for a set amount of time. This meanwhile unit doesn't have a fan, so it doesn't really give you much indicator of when it's done charging. I just know that, if it's running for 5 amps, in 1 hour, it's going to put 5 amp hours of energy back into my battery pack. So we want to talk about procedure for building the initial build of your battery pack. And the one thing to keep in mind is that these multi-star 4S 16 amp hour packs, and pretty much any lithium polymer pack that you buy, there is some amount of factory dud rate. Okay, the factory makes these cells, and they have QA processes that they go through, and they test them, and they send them out to the vendor, the supplier, who then you purchase it from, and you proceed to start using them. When you're building an e-bike battery, typically you're going to have several packs in series and in parallel. You may or may not have packs in parallel, but certainly in series. And so with that, there's the inherent risk of getting a pack that, for whatever reason, has a bad cell. And reportedly, based on Endless forum feedbacks and things like that, the typical bad pack ratio for these particular packs, the multi-star packs, the 4S and the 6S packs, can be anywhere from 10 to 20% bad, a dud rate. So if you bought 10 packs, there's a pretty high likelihood that at least one of those packs is going to have a bad cell in it. And you want to know what pack that is. You want to weed that cell out, because you do not want to put that pack in your battery and use it long term. You want to identify if any cell is bad. You want to figure out which one it is, and you want to essentially send it back to wherever you bought it from, Hobby King, or if you bought it from a secondary supplier. So the very first thing that we want to do when we build a pack is we want to capacity test every individual single pack. Okay, if you're building a 5-cell 1P pack like this configuration might be, okay, so 20 cells in 20 cells in series total by whatever the pack amp hours are, 16 amp hours. Okay, so if you're going to build this pack, you want to test every single pack for capacity to make sure that it doesn't have any bad cells, and that it meets the capacity ratings. And the capacity ratings will vary a little bit. One pack might give a little bit more than 16 amp hours, and some other packs might give a little bit less. But in average, they should be about 16 amp hours. It's not a huge deal if they're, a little bit out of, there's a little bit of difference there. That's fairly normal. But you do want to pay attention to when you get a very low cell. So I'm going to go through that process of how to capacity test a pack, and then you would just repeat that individually for every cell. If you're building a fairly large battery bank, there's actually a fair amount of time involved in building a pack that you would feel comfortable and safe using on a long-term basis. If you don't do this, there's a very high risk that you have a bad cell that is eventually going to give you problems and can have catastrophic failure. So this is a very important step in the process of putting together a lithium polymer pack. So let's look at, we're going to use the iCharger. Again, another good reason to buy the higher powered iCharger is because you can do discharge. You can monitor the discharge and do discharge graphs with the higher powered 406 iChargers. All right, so this is what I typically use as a setup to capacity test a single individual lithium polymer pack. And let me explain kind of the configuration that I have here. So this iCharger, the iCharger 406 Duo, is a great charger for doing capacity testing, in that it can do what's called a synchronous balance, charge and discharge simultaneously. And effectively what it does is it creates a load on the battery that you're testing. It creates a discharge. It discharges the energy from this battery, and it feeds it into the other side of the unit, into what I have here is essentially a bank of cells. Now these are 6S cells and this is a 4S pack. So they don't have to be the same, because the iCharger will do the voltage conversion and charge these appropriately. But the main idea is that you want to have a relatively large battery bank that you're discharging and charging from as you're feeding watts back and forth between the two sides of the charger. So and the reason for that is that we don't want to overcharge or over discharge this side of the pack. So the small pack that we're testing is connected directly into via an adapter to the iCharger, as well as the balance plug is connected to the adapter board here that goes to the unit. On this side, it's just a parallel bank, so the 6S packs are all paralleled together to essentially create one gigantic 6S pack that's 64 amp hours, since these are 16 amp hour individual packs. Currently the cell voltages for this pack are 3.91 volts. You don't want to do this when this pack is fully charged. You want to be about mid-state state of charge on this, so that you have room to discharge and charge this pack as you're testing this one. This one we're going to take all the way to the top and then bring all the way down to the bottom. So the setup, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to charge this pack full. So to do that, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set this pack to discharge and then set this pack to charge. Okay, that's going to charge this one all the way full and get us up to our full pack, full voltage charge. So to do that, we'll go to the start menu over here. We'll go to LiPo and we're going to do discharge. Okay, and we're going to do this at a 30 amp discharge rate for this side. So that's set, my current is set at 30 amps. We're going to discharge cycle, so we're going to start this cycle, click yes, okay. And it's not going to do anything right away. It's waiting for us to put a charge on something else. It's waiting for a load to discharge this into. And so now we go to this side and we'll do the LiPo, and we're going to charge again. This one will do 30 amps as well. This one actually is a little bit going to be a faster charge rate on this one, since it's just a 16-hour pack. So that's charging at almost 2C, okay, or 2 times the capacity of the pack, which is kind of the upper limits of what these packs can handle. So we'll go ahead and start that charge. So now we're discharging this side, it's feeding through, and then charging on this side. And you can see the amps are increasing slowly. Okay, 0.2, 0.4 amps. Okay, so it'll gradually start to increase. So now it's okay, now it's getting close to 30 amps. And so we would let that go through the charge cycle until all the individual cells of this pack are fully charged to 4.20 volts each, and that they're balanced. We charge them, we balance them, and effectively it is a balanced, fully charged pack. We'll go through that, we'll get it charged, and then we can do the test. We can test the capacity of the pack. So I'm just going to skip ahead to the point where we're discharging the pack. Alright, so we are now fully charged on this single 4S pack, and my cell voltages for the individual cells 4.188, 4.188, 4.189, 4.189. So they're all within a couple thousandths of a volt. So that's very well balanced. Okay. So now, and you'll notice, of course, we charged it at 4.20 volts, and immediately the voltage even begins to sag just a little bit. Okay, it's not at 4.2 anymore. It's 4.18 and dropping a little bit. But the main thing is that it's basically fully charged, and it's well balanced. So now we're going to run the discharge test on the single pack. The other thing I'm going to point out with this particular iCharger is that right here there's a port for a micro SD card. We're actually going to record this discharge, and we'll get a graph as we record it. So I'll show you that in the video here in just a little bit about what that chart looks like, but that'll allow us to visually see the voltage curve of this particular pack. So that's all recording on the SD card that's in the unit here. Alright, so let's go ahead and start the discharge cycle. So we're going to go to this pack here, and lithium polymer, and we are going to discharge. The first thing I'm going to do is change the current. I'm going to do a discharge current of 40 amps, which is the maximum for this unit. And I want to just max out the discharge as much as I can, because that's what we're testing for on the bike. You know, this is going to essentially simulate a 40 amp draw from the battery as you're riding on the bike. 40 amps on a bike is actually a pretty decent discharge rate that you would use on a high-powered bike. You might be cruising at, you know, 45 miles per hour and discharging 40 amps continuous. And so this is a very realistic simulation of what the battery pack will endure on the bike as you're running it at high power levels. So it's set at 40 amps, so now we can go to the discharge. We'll start the discharge cycle, and it won't do anything until we set the charge cycle on this one as well. So let's go ahead and set that. And it's set to charge at 40 amps, and actually it's not going to charge at 40 amps because this will limit that. So we'll start the charge here, and we'll watch these two values increase. Alright, and our discharge cycle just ended, so let's take a look at where we stand cell-wise. So the discharger took it down to 3.5 volts per cell, and the lowest cell triggered the termination. And so it looks like cell number 1 reached the 3.5 threshold first. And of course you'll also notice that the cell voltage bounced back up after it terminated the discharge. So at the bottom end of the discharge curve, cell number 1 stands at 3.573 volts, and then the other 3 cells are at 3.65, 3.67. So cell number 1 is actually kind of a little bit weak on this pack. It's not a great cell. You'll also notice that the milliamp hours on here is 15.215 milliamp hours. That's how many milliamp hours came out of cell number 1 before it triggered the termination for the discharge. So that would be the rated capacity in milliamp hours, or 15.215 amp hours for this particular pack. So let's take a look at the discharge curve. As you can see, up at the upper left-hand corner of the graph, we have the starting voltage, which started out at about 4.18. And immediately, once the discharge program started, you can see the cells, the voltage of each cell drop to about 4.12. That's kind of the initial voltage sag. And if you recall, we were loading it at about 30 amps. This discharge only went up as high as 30 amps. So at 30 amps, we had a voltage drop of about 0.06 volts, which isn't a lot. That's pretty good. But then as we kind of follow along on the graph and we kind of go down that curve, we can see the red line, which is cell number 1, and that cell is consistently lower than the other two. And actually the green cell, which is cell number 3, ended up having a little bit less voltage sag and is a healthier cell than the other 2 cells even. So you have one high cell and one low cell, and then cells 2 and 4 are kind of right in the middle. Cells 2 and 4 are very closely
matched up. So 2 and 4 are between each other are very good. That's really what we like to see when we analyze a pack. The fact that we have cell number 3, the green line, which is a little bit higher, isn't great, and then also cell number 1, the red line, having a lower voltage, not so great. And you can see as it gets toward the end that it really drops off. The other 3 cells, you see that little blip at the end. That's after the discharge terminated. So the voltage bounced back up after the discharge terminated. But so really what we're looking at is as it starts to go off the cliff. The green one really hadn't even started to go off the voltage cliff yet. It still had a bit of capacity left, but the red one, of course, is the short cell. And so as you can see, this discharge lasted just over 30 minutes long. So this pack was able to output 30 amps of current continuously for 30 minutes, which isn't bad. But that red cell number 1, that's a cause for concern. And so we would want to test all the packs. And if this ended up being the weakest pack, then we would want to pull this out and maybe have another pack ready to take its place. This isn't ideal, although it's not terrible. It's right. This particular pack is kind of old. It's probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years old by now. So it's been used and it's had a few charge cycles on it. So this isn't unexpected, but this is something to keep an eye out. So here's the summary for LiPo safety. First off, order 10 to 20% more packs than you'll need so you can pull any packs with bad cells or just eliminate the lowest or the weakest cell packs so that all of your packs are of very good quality and health. Capacity test every pack you use to build your battery before you put them into use. Ideally, pack capacities should be within 2% of each other. For a 16 amp hour pack, that would be a 320 milliamp hour difference between the high and the low pack. Make sure all cells are within the same voltage, within 0.02 of a volt, before connecting your serial harness. Unplug all connections from your serial harness before connecting a parallel charge cable. Make sure all the cells are the same voltage within 0.05 of a volt before connecting your parallel harness for charging. Plug your charge harness into the charger before connecting to the battery packs. Physically protect the packs from chafing, denting, and frame obstructions. If you do dent a pack or puncture it or otherwise physically damage it, take it out of service immediately. If your packs get puffy, they're not happy. Monitor cell voltages and capacity test if in doubt. Charge your LiPo in a place where you would build a fire, like a fireplace or a barbecue. When charging, always be in the vicinity and be alert. Be ready to take action with your battery if something happens. And never use water to put out a LiPo fire. Either smother it with sand or isolate it in a safe place where it can't ignite something else on fire. I appreciate you bearing with me through this extensive video, but hopefully if you've watched all of it, you have a pretty good appreciation for what it takes to use lithium polymer batteries on your EV builds. Love it if you would subscribe to my channel. I'll have lots more videos coming in the future, and so if you want to stay up to date with everything I'm doing, please click the subscribe and enjoy.